Hey there, everyone, and welcome back to Utility Sports. And today we're going to be talking about the season opener between the Golden State Warriors and the Brooklyn Nets. Obviously, they played in Brooklyn. And I just want to point out here, I am recording this with 9 minutes left in the game. At this point, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, all the Nets starters are out of the game. And also the Warriors starters are all out of the game at this point. That's why I'm going ahead and making this video. Right now, it's a 30-point deficit. And I'm just going to give some of my analysis here on what I saw. Let's start actually with the Warriors side of things here. Quite frankly, I think it's going to be a tougher season than I had even predicted at first. Just watching them, the Nets are a good team. That's a tough matchup on opening night. Obviously, they have to learn how to play together with Oubre there now, with rookie James Weissman. But at the same time, they didn't look good. They really did not. Kelly Oubre and Andrew Wiggins combined for 7 of 28 from the field. Now, they were taking pretty quality shots. Most of the time, they just, were missing. I think that that's going to, correct itself a little bit. They're not going to be shooting 25% from the field. Oubre missed a lot of open jump shots. But also looking at Steph Curry, there's just too much pressure on him in that offense, I think, especially without Klay Thompson this year. You're looking at a team with really only one guard that's able to get his shot off. Andrew Wiggins is capable in a face-up scenario, maybe puts his back to the basket a little bit. Kelly Oubre is kind of a dynamic slasher off the ball, a guy who can maybe catch and shoot open, but he's not much of a creator for himself consistently either in that half court. They brought in Brad Wanamaker. I don't think that's really going to be something that will really propel that roster moving forward. And James Wiseman is just kind of starting to come into his own a little bit. This is his first game in over a year. Now at this point, obviously didn't play a whole lot at Memphis last year. He's, shaking off some of that rust. He has 9 points at this point. I think that the ceiling for him is really high, but going into this year, he's going to be operating more of that Kevon Looney role as a screener, athletic big, maybe anchor the paint for them. And obviously they did not have Draymond Green this game. He's part of their creation, but he's more of a secondary creator for them anyway. I don't really know if his functionality is the best when it comes to, missing Klay Thompson, missing another guard, and obviously the absence of Kevin Durant from their roster. You're looking at a completely different team. Steph Curry's a little bit older. He was 7 for 21 through the first 3 quarters tonight. I don't think he's going to play anymore for the remainder of this game. And quite frankly, it was tough. It was really tough for him. He's got everyone on the other team looking at him at all times right now without Klay Thompson on the floor. I think it's going to be a tough season for the Golden State Warriors. I don't think that they're going to be nearly as bad as they were last year. Don't get me wrong. I think they're going to be a competitive team. I'd even pick them to be the 8th seed in the West. But I think, teams like the Memphis Grizzlies are going to be right in the hunt for that. A few other teams as well. The Minnesota Timberwolves are going to be a lot more competitive this year as well. I just think it's going to be a tough season for the Warriors. They need to find another creator in that offense, someone who's organic in the pick and roll game specifically. That's something Andrew Wiggins isn't really suited for, and I think that they really need to find someone else who can do that. And I think their second unit at this point is really thin, obviously with Draymond out. When he's back, Eric Pascal would move to the bench unit and come off the bench and provide them some bench scoring. But again, they still don't have guard play off that bench. I think that's something that's really going to hurt them. Just looking at kind of how the game went for them this time around with obviously their matchup with the Brooklyn Nets. They just didn't have creators. They didn't have guys who could get their shots off the dribble. Juan Toscano-Anderson's not going to be that guy for you. Jordan Poole's not going to be that guy. Damian Lee. They just don't have that really. And I think that's going to be, the storyline really for the Golden State Warriors moving forward. They're in a tough situation. Obviously, it's hard to replace a player like Kevin Durant, especially when your second best player, Klay Thompson's out for the season. Too much pressure on Steph Curry this year. I think that they'll still be a competitive team. I still think they're fun to watch even when Curry's on the floor. But with Curry off the floor, I don't think there's a lot there for Golden State. Now jumping into Brooklyn side of things, this is really where the conversation should be heading and the most important part of tonight's game. The Brooklyn Nets looked really, really good. Quite frankly, their depth is incredible. They might have the best bench in the league. Some would maybe say the Lakers. The Clippers still have a very good bench too in my estimation. But the Brooklyn Nets, you got a trio basically of Spencer Dinwiddie. Obviously, he started tonight, but I think long-term he'll probably come off the bench for them. I think also you got Karis LeVert, a guy who's going to be a really dynamic bench scorer this year. He's kind of starting to enter his prime. And Jarrett Allen is a really, really quality backup big. He would probably be a starter on about 70 to 75% of NBA teams, in my opinion. And they got him coming off the bench behind DeAndre Jordan. I really like that. Not a lot of teams have rim protectors coming off the bench. That's something the Brooklyn Nets do have, and that's something that the Brooklyn Nets have an advantage of over other teams at this point. And then, of course, we've got Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. Their first game together has been an absolute success. I believe Kyrie had 26 in 25 minutes, and I believe Kevin Durant had 22 in 25 minutes. Those numbers might be reversed, so it might be 26 for KD. But quite frankly, both of them look good. Kevin Durant is back, although I do want to point out one little thing. You can notice a slight drop-off. Now, don't get me wrong. The shot's still there. He's a shooter. He's going to be able to hit shots over people. He's 6'10". He's going to be a great player still. I'm not saying that he's not, but you can just tell there's different times in the game. He had an isolation against Kevon Looney. That should be a basket 90% of the time. Just got a little, got beat to his spot by Kevon Looney out on the perimeter. That's something that wouldn't have happened 2 years ago before this injury. And quite frankly, I think that's going to limit his efficiency a little bit. We're going to see, a gradual drop in his field goal percentage. I believe he was 7 for 16 tonight. So still pretty quality efficiency. He's not going to be, it's not like I'm expecting him to drop down to 40%, but he's going to go down from that 52, 53% down to probably about 47, 48. That is a noticeable drop off, but it's still a good percentage. He's still a top 10 player in the world. But, I think he's going to be closer to the 7-8 range than he is number 1 or number 2 at this point. He's still got that dribble, pull up, going left, going right. Obviously, really good size, really good length. He's able to get that shot off over anybody. I'm not questioning his shooting ability. A torn Achilles doesn't affect your shot. I'm telling you that. But it does affect your explosiveness in traffic. That's something I saw him struggle with a little bit during this game. His first step is still there, it looks like, especially on rip-throughs. But it doesn't look like his first step there is out of the triple threat as much. When he catches on the wing and rips and then goes, I think he still has that burst, but it doesn't look like he has that burst necessarily, especially going to his left. We saw him tear that right Achilles. And I just think that pushing off of his right is going to be a little tough for him moving forward. And it's going to impact the way he plays a little bit. I could see him starting to settle for more jump shots. Obviously, that's kind of what his game is already built around, so I don't think it's going to be too disastrous for him. A player like Andrew Wiggins, if he tore his Achilles, obviously knock on wood there, that would really, really impact the way he plays. Kevin Durant is more suited for a return from an injury like this, but I just want to point out that I do think he is slightly limited compared to what he was beforehand, but I still think he's a really great player. He's a lock to be an all-star in the East, no question about it. He's probably a lock to be all-NBA still at this point. But I just want to point out that I do notice a slight drop-off, very, very slight drop-off, something that most other players in the league couldn't already do, something that KD could do. I just think he's not really there anymore. And perhaps as the season progresses, as he returns, maybe he gets some of that explosiveness back through traffic. But albeit he's still a great player, the Nets have a really good 1-2 punch with him and Kyrie Irving and the bench to do it. They were running 11 deep tonight. Players like Jeff Green off the bench. Obviously, Spencer Dinwiddie in the starting lineup tonight, like I mentioned, but you also have Landry Shamet off the bench. You've got a whole multitude of different lineups. Joe Harris is a really underrated player still in the league. He got his payday, obviously, this offseason, but I still think, the media and the fans don't really realize how important he is. He's not only a guy who can space the floor as just a three-point shooter, but he also punishes heavy closeouts with 1 or 2 dribble pull-ups into that mid-range game. He's a quick decision maker when he has the ball in his hands. He's a guy who moves the rock. DeAndre Jordan looked really nice tonight as well. That's something I'd been kind of considering what his impact would be, but he looked really, really good against the Golden State Warriors tonight. I think that they're going to be, the favorite probably in the East to come out at this point. It's going to be between them and Milwaukee likely. I think Philadelphia is kind of a dark horse this year. Obviously a really disastrous end to their season last year, but at the same time, they added shooting. Ben Simmons will be healthy, hopefully. You're looking at an improved Sixers roster, so I think those are kind of the 3 teams in the East to watch. The Bucks with Drew Holiday will be really interesting to watch. We've got a whole bunch of games going on tomorrow, 13 games on the docket. I'm very excited to watch some of those. But now, the reason I wanted to pound this one out was so I could get ahead of the Clippers-Lakers game, watch that one from start to finish, and then get another video up for you guys tonight. So I kind of hope to hear from you guys what you thought on the game. Kevin Durant, he looked really good. I'm not saying he didn't. I think there's a slight drop-off, but at the same time, a slight drop off for Kevin Durant is still better than 98% of the league. Realistically, he's still going to be a really great player. I had ranked him, I believe, 7th before the season started. I think that's kind of where he's going to end up falling after watching him tonight. I actually had him below Curry. With Curry's role this year, it's going to be hard to kind of monitor. I don't know. Steve Kerr doesn't really seem to get a lot out of his bench. I think for the Warriors, the biggest takeaway is, no Clay. You got some issues, quite frankly. And obviously, they didn't have Draymond tonight. When you have those two players in there, you've got a little bit of depth because maybe you have Pascal and, a guy like Oubre or Wiggins coming off the bench. But now at this point, they do not. They're kind of limited to a 5-player rotation, with that being Curry, Oubre, Wiggins, Draymond, and James Weissman. Kevon Looney can come in, fill in some minutes. I understand that. And Eric Pascal, some people really like him. I'm way less high on him. I think he's kind of a ball stopper, and I think he plays inefficiently. And I think defensively, he's got a lot of limitations. But I think that there's some value there coming off the bench, I guess. So, they're looking at the difference between a 5-man and a 7-man rotation, really, tonight for them. But the Nets, they're deep. They're an 11-man rotation. Steve Nash's offense looked very fluid. They moved the ball a lot of pick and roll, which is something I'd expected, obviously, with D'Antoni's influence on Nash and his game, and probably his coaching style with D'Antoni now being an assistant coach there. And, they're very fluid. Their ball motion was good. They're able to do it in a whole bunch of different ways. There was a lot of time where Kevin Durant and Kyrie were not on the floor at all. And Karis LeVert had the ball in his hands. Dinwiddie had the ball in his hands. They're able to take shots, make shots. And that's something, you're looking at what LeVert's able to do for the Nets, rather. And that's what the Warriors were missing, quite frankly, tonight. That's something to monitor for the remainder of the season. I hope you guys did enjoy the video, though. However, I'm going to go back, get on that Lakers-Clippers game, and we'll catch you guys in the next video.